The alien was already living beneath the Antarctic ice. It had pale, almost translucent skin, long arms, black, reflective eyes, and a body built to survive in a place where almost nothing else could. But this was not the most disturbing thing about the creature. The creature was not alone. There were thousands of them, living beneath Antarctica, moving through enormous tunnels beneath the ice. And according to the fictional reconstruction you are about to see, they had been there for far longer than anyone expected. The question was never how they survived Antarctica. The question was, what were they doing there? The first alien was observed standing completely motionless on a frozen Antarctic plain. It was approximately human-sized. Its body was extremely thin, but not fragile. Its arms extended unusually far below its waist. Its hands contained long, narrow fingers. Its skin was pale grey, with a subtle texture that appeared almost identical to the surrounding ice from a distance. But its eyes were impossible to miss. Large, completely dark, and naturally reflective. The creature did not behave like an animal encountering something unfamiliar. It behaved like something that had already noticed the observers. It turned its head, stopped, and looked directly toward the camera. There was no obvious aggression, no attempt to escape, no confusion, just observation. For almost 30 seconds, the alien remained completely still. It turned away and walked directly toward the ice. Not around it, toward it. The creature placed one hand against a vertical wall of ice. Surface appeared solid. Then the alien disappeared. Not through an opening, not behind the wall. It simply moved into a narrow fracture that had been almost invisible from a distance. That was the first indication that the Antarctic surface was hiding something much larger. The next discovery changed the investigation. One alien became 2, then 5, then 12. The creatures were found at different locations, sometimes several kilometers apart. But they appeared to belong to the same species. The same pale skin, the same elongated limbs, the same enormous black eyes, the same unusually controlled movements. And something else. They never appeared to travel randomly. Every alien was moving in the same general direction, toward the ice, toward the same underground region. This was not migration in the normal sense. There were no visible food trails, no obvious predators, no seasonal explanation. The aliens were simply moving beneath the Antarctic surface, and they were doing it with remarkable precision. The behavior of the aliens became increasingly unusual. When approached, they did not run. Instead, they watched. An alien would stand several hundred meters away. Sometimes it would crouch behind an ice ridge. Sometimes it would remain completely exposed. But its eyes always followed the observers. When one alien moved, another often appeared somewhere else, then another. It began to look less like an animal population, more like a coordinated intelligence. The aliens seemed to know where the humans were before the humans knew where the aliens were. And then researchers noticed something even stranger. The aliens were watching the cameras. Not the people, the cameras. They would approach equipment, stand directly in front of it, look into the lens, and remain there. Some appeared to study the movement of the camera. Others seemed to deliberately position themselves where they could be seen. If this were a real discovery, that behavior would raise an extraordinary question. Were the aliens simply observing us, or did they understand exactly what the cameras were recording? The most important discovery came from an alien that was injured. In this fictional reconstruction, the creature was found near a large ice shelf. It was alive, was breathing slowly, and it was clearly trying to reach something beneath the surface. The alien placed both hands against the snow. Then it began tapping. 3 times. Pause. 3 times. Pause. 3 times. The sound was almost impossible to hear, but something answered. The vibration came from beneath the ice. The alien immediately stood. Its behavior changed. It was no longer injured. It moved toward the sound. Surface of the ice cracked, not violently. Precisely, a narrow opening appeared. The alien entered and disappeared beneath Antarctica. That opening eventually revealed a tunnel, and another, then another. The tunnels were not natural cracks. They formed an interconnected network extending deep beneath the surface, and the aliens were using them. The deeper the tunnels went, the more aliens appeared. Not one species living alone. A complete population. Adults. Smaller juveniles. Massive individuals. And aliens with physical differences that suggested different roles within the population. Some were extremely thin, some were broader, some moved slowly, others moved with extraordinary speed. But they all shared the same basic characteristics. The same dark eyes, the same pale surface, the same controlled movements, and the same strange silence. There were no constant calls, no obvious territorial fights, no chaotic movement. Thousands of aliens could occupy the same underground chamber, barely make a sound. That silence became one of the most disturbing features of the entire discovery. Because silence is one thing when you are looking at an animal. It is something completely different when you are looking at thousands of intelligent beings. Then researchers found an alien unlike the others. It was much larger. Its body was nearly 3 times the size of the smaller adults. Its skin was darker. Its eyes were smaller. And unlike the other aliens, it rarely moved. The other creatures approached it, stopped, and waited. No physical commands were visible. No sounds were obvious. Yet the behavior of the surrounding aliens changed whenever this creature moved. If it turned its head, hundreds of aliens turned with it. Walked, entire groups separated to create a path. If it stopped, everything stopped. The creature appeared to function as some kind of central figure, but there was no evidence of whether it was a leader, guardian, elder, or something else, entirely. Then it did something that changed the entire interpretation of the species. It walked toward the surface, and hundreds of aliens followed. The aliens emerged from beneath Antarctica in groups, not hundreds. Thousands they spread across the ice, but they did not attack, they did not approach the expedition. They simply stood there, looking upward. Every alien was facing the same direction, the sky. Nothing appeared to be there, at least nothing visible to the human eye. The aliens remained motionless for several minutes. Then something happened. Every alien lowered its head. At exactly the same moment, a few seconds later, they raised their heads again. The movement was perfectly synchronized. It happened again. Down. Pause. Up. Down. Pause. Up. It was not random behavior. It looked like a response. Something was communicating with them. Something above the clouds. The largest alien suddenly opened its mouth. It produced a sound unlike anything heard from the other creatures. One low tone, then 2 shorter tones, then silence. Across the Antarctic plain, other aliens repeated the sequence. The sound travelled through the population. One group repeated it, then another, then another. Within seconds, thousands of aliens were communicating through the same sequence. And then the entire population stopped. The aliens became silent. They were listening. A few seconds passed, then something answered. Sound did not come from the aliens. It came from beneath the ice. A deep vibration moved across the ground. The aliens immediately turned toward the same location and began walking. The aliens stopped above a section of Antarctic ice that looked completely ordinary. Then the largest creature placed its hand against the surface. The other aliens gathered around it. The ice began to fracture. A circular structure appeared beneath the snow. It was enormous, and it was clearly not part of the natural landscape. The aliens had known it was there, protecting it, waiting for something. The largest alien touched the surface again. A pattern appeared. Not writing, not symbols that could immediately be translated. Something more like a map. And then the structure began to open. Inside was another chamber. And inside that chamber were more aliens. Hundreds of them. But these aliens were completely motionless. They appeared to be sleeping. Their bodies were positioned upright. Their eyes were closed. Their hands rested against their sides. They were not dead. They were dormant. And there were thousands of them. The creatures living on the surface were not an isolated population. They were only the active population. Whatever had placed these aliens beneath Antarctica had apparently created something much larger. A reserve, a colony, or perhaps something else. Then one dormant alien opened its eyes. The black eyes immediately focused on the nearest living alien. Another opened its eyes. Then another. Then hundreds, and then in few minutes, the entire chamber was awake. But the newly awakened aliens did not attack. They did not leave. They simply looked upward, every one of them. And the original aliens began moving aside. The dormant creatures walked toward the surface. Thousands of aliens followed. The Antarctic landscape began filling with them. Different sizes, different ages, but the same species. They stood across the ice in complete silence. Then the sky changed. A dark shape appeared above the clouds. Then another. Then another. The aliens did not react with fear. They did not scatter. They did not hide. Instead, they looked relieved. The objects above Antarctica were enormous. They remained almost completely stationary. No visible engines, no obvious lights, no recognizable aircraft design. Just massive structures suspended above the clouds. The aliens watched them. Then the largest alien on the ground walked forward. It looked toward the sky, then toward the camera, and for several seconds, it did nothing. Then it raised one hand. The other aliens copied the movement. Thousands of aliens raised their hands toward the sky, and the objects above them began descending, not toward the expedition, toward the aliens. That was when the final possibility became impossible to ignore. The aliens beneath Antarctica may never have been hiding from humanity. They may have been waiting for something, and whatever they were waiting for had finally arrived. There is currently no confirmed scientific evidence that an extraterrestrial species lives beneath Antarctica. This entire encounter is a fictional reconstruction. But within the scenario, one question remains unanswered. Why Antarctica? Why live beneath one of the most isolated environments on Earth? And again, why remain hidden? Then again, why do they build an underground population? And why would thousands of aliens appear to be waiting for something in the sky? Perhaps the most frightening possibility is not that humanity discovered an alien species. It is that the aliens already knew humanity was there. They watched us. They studied us. They remained beneath the ice. And they waited. Until the moment they were no longer alone. And if these aliens really existed beneath Antarctica, would they be hiding from us? Or would we be the ones who were never supposed to find them?